What is up, everybody? It's Kamikaze here today, and today I wanted to talk about my HUD layout as well as my settings. So I kind of wanted to show this off to you guys because I got a couple of comments saying, I want to see your HUD and stuff. So I was like, okay, let's put it in this video, and it'll be a pretty jam-packed video, so let's get right into it, everybody. Now, a lot of you guys said that you wanted to see this video, so I was like, okay, I will go out and make it. So it's going to be pretty jam-packed. I know a lot of people out there, when they do their HUD settings, they'll have like a gameplay match afterwards where they'll just like show off them getting a bunch of kills with this HUD. And personally, I don't really want to do that. I don't do a lot of gameplay and stuff like that. When I do gameplay, usually it's not very focused on the gameplay. Usually it's just like a background while I'm speaking or ranting and whatnot, so I'm not going to be doing that. This entire video is just going to be talking about my HUD and my settings and why I use them. Hopefully it will help you guys out a lot. Now, one of the biggest rules when it comes to making a HUD and, using settings is never copy a YouTuber exactly, because that is a big issue when it comes to different devices and, different personal preferences. See, my HUD for somebody else might not work if they're on the iPad and, they're playing differently than I am. So make sure, take it with a grain of salt and make sure to try and test out for yourself, figure out how it will work for you. But I really just wanted to show a basic 5-finger HUD layout that I use. This is the one that I've used for about like 1,500 battles now. It is my favorite layout, really. And if you really want to get good at this game, I recommend using claw. Not just any like 3 or 4 finger claw, but 5 fingers is the best for using hip fire as well as drop shotting. Now, yes, I use hip fire. As you can see, it's on custom, but everything is on hip. I don't know why I have it on custom, but all of it is on hip. It's just going to... hip is better because, and I will explain why. So as you guys can see now, number one very major thing to kind of talk about here is that this HUD layout is not meant to be at 100% opacity. In fact, no HUD layout is supposed to be that way. Generally, I would recommend turning it down to like 10% or even 50% or lower, just for your peripheral vision so you can see everything. I just have it up at maximum so you guys can see, basically everything that is here to offer with this HUD layout. Now, number one of the biggest things is, yes, this is a 5-finger layout. This is not going to be an easy one to play. You really have to be good at basically using claw before you move to 5 fingers. It does take a lot of coordination, but it's a really good layout. Now, first of all, I have the fire button all the way up at the left, just to basically, I use it with my my middle finger, and that's how I tap that one. So the left hand for me is where I use my 3rd finger. The other one is just 2. That allows for a better grip on the phone, and I can actually hold my phone. I don't have to have it like planted on a surface or anything. So it's my basically my least powerful finger is the fire button, because I don't want to have to be doing any like fine movements or anything, or having to press multiple buttons with my 3rd finger, because my middle finger isn't exactly that strong. So it's all the way up the top, and of course, it's a pretty good place for it to be there. Now, we also have the reload button right under it, just so I can reload. That's just there. I usually I will actually hit that with my 2nd finger on my left hand, but it's supposed to be used to hit with your 3rd finger, but I don't know, just out of habit, I do that. Now, I have my prone, my jump, and my slide and whatnot right there. I use that all with 1 finger. Now, if you're using like a 6-finger layout, you would basically be having like your jump and your slide on different fingers, but since this is just a 5-finger layout, we are actually using it for 1, so you just have to press in that little triangle, and you will get used to it pretty fast. This is the perfect place to basically put your 2nd finger, because we're using it with our 2nd finger. I used to put it on my 3rd finger, my middle finger, but then I switched the fire button and the actual jump, slide, prone, whatever buttons. I switched those because your finger right there is a lot easier to control, and you can hit those buttons with a lot better accuracy, because you do not want to be jumping when you mean to be like proning or like sliding, because that never ends up very good. Movement is very important, so I would definitely make sure to have it on your 2nd finger rather than your 3rd. Now, next up, we have basically just the movement button, how I move around and everything, and that is, of course, a thumb button, because you want to be very accurate with that. Now, again, I would definitely recommend putting that wherever you can, whatever feels comfortable, because your thumb is going to be in a different place than mine, depending on how long your fingers are. That is a very important one to have right where you need it to be, or else your movement is going to be all out of whack, and you will never be able to hit very good shots or move around at all. You will be basically useless. Now, on my other side of my hand, we have, my grenade, my tactical stuff, my lethal, the throwables, basically. Also have the operator skill and the aim button. Now, the aim button is just right there. That's the main one I use for my 2nd finger on the top. And I just, press the aim button right there and shoot. So, again, this is a hip fire loadout, so you'll be using that a lot. That is why I specifically made it an entirely separate finger to use the aim button, because this is hip fire, guys. Now, my next one is just the bottom one, and that is there's no buttons really there, and that is just to move around and do whatever to basically just move the camera angle when I'm firing and doing all sorts of things, because you want to have an entirely separate finger for that. If you have like a fire button down, I know a lot of people like to use their fire button and put that there when they're moving to basically make this a 4-finger loadout. However, that takes time and it can make you a lot slower at aiming, so I recommend having an entirely separate finger purely just for aiming. That is my favorite loadout right there. That is all 5 fingers. Now, a couple of interesting things about this loadout is that it's pretty low on buttons. I mean, a lot of the buttons on the left, there's not really, there's no melee button that I use. There's none of those. It's basically the bare bones of a 5-finger loadout. Now, we do have the message button and like settings and all those things everywhere, and those are just, to press if you need to. You're generally not going to need to use those a lot in-game unless you want to annoy people and type random stuff in chat. So I just have that up there just to be able to see it. It's at an opacity that I can actually see, usually at like 50%. So I'd never miss out when someone's typing something in chat and I can actually see what they're saying. Now, of course, we have the mini-map up at the top. Now, some people may find this interesting that my mini-map is not at the bottom. I put it up at the top. For me personally, it is easier to see because when I'm looking up and I'm looking for players, it's better to look upwards and make sure, I'm looking near an enemy. It makes it faster for my eyes to kind of dart towards the mini-map rather than having to dart down. So that's easier for me to see, and you need to use your mini-map constantly during game. So definitely make sure to put it up at the top. A lot of people don't do that, but it does help me out a lot. We have the score streaks button. I made it smaller, and you can still press the score streaks pretty easily. You just have to make sure you're accurate with that and you're not pressing the wrong score streak. We also have the score button right down there. Usually it's up at the top, but nope. We also have the weapon switch on the side rather than all the way at the bottom because, well, for a very big reason of that. If you're pressing it all the way at the bottom, it will take like a different finger, and if you really need to switch very quickly, you're going to want to use your fire button. So that is what I use to actually switch weapons very quickly without having to, go all the way across the screen in order to press it. Makes it faster switching, and it will allow you in certain situations when you run out of ammo to use that secondary weapon, and hopefully you can pull off that kill. It does make it a lot easier to use. That is basically all I have for this loadout right here. Again, use it at a lower opacity so you can see everything. You can also use bigger buttons. I use smaller buttons just because it's smaller when I'm recording videos and it's easier to see the actual kind of look of this HUD. So there we go. Now we will go into the settings part of this video, and I want to show off kind of my settings and what I'm using, so let's get right into it. Now, first off, we're going to start off with just the very basic things right here. We have aim assist on. Aim assist, you can actually have that toggled on or off. Some people find it annoying to have to use. Some people think it's going to make your aim a lot better, and it really doesn't. It's not that great. Aim assist in COD Mobile has always been kind of broken and just annoying. So I do have it on because it does help me out sometimes, but there's really no need for it. It does very little. Quick run from prone. I don't think I've ever used that one in my life, but it's on. Fixed right fire button. Now that is a very important one because if you're using your fire button as an entirely separate from actually your movement button, you're going to want that fixed fire rate or fire button because that will actually improve your aim because it will keep your finger still and your movement will not be changed from your fire button. That is a very important one if you really want to get good at aiming, so turn that one on. Now, release R fire button of shotgun to hip fire. I've never used that one before. I don't even know what it does. Continuous grenade throw, have that one on. Fast grenade, I have that off because I want to choose when I want to throw it, and that's just easier for me. I also use it to get a really fast start to a game. I'll just hold a grenade and run. If you had fast grenade on, it would actually just throw it instantly, and you wouldn't get that. Joystick auto sprint, I don't have that on. Some people use it. It's meh. Fixed joystick, I do have that one on just to basically keep things constant down there. Some people don't have that one. It's personal preference, but I find it a lot easier to use fixed joystick and just put it in a comfortable place for me because it feels like it makes me more consistent when I'm running, and I never feel like, I have no control over my running. Right fire button for fixed perspective. Yep, I have that on. It's basically just fixed fire button, but that's just what it looks like. Basically same thing, just in terms of looks rather than actual gameplay. Doesn't really do very much for you guys anyway. Hide prone button, definitely have that off. You do not want to hide the prone button. That is a new kind of setting there, and it came in a couple seasons ago. It basically made drop shotting extremely easy, so always have that one on if you're ever going to drop shot. Definitely a very good thing to use if you are a drop shotter, because if not, it can take a lot longer to drop shot to the point where, there's really no point in drop shotting because you're already dead. Next up, we have tap and hold to ADS. Now I use that one instead of tap to ADS because tap to ADS will just keep you in, and you don't want that, so I just have tap and hold just for better pre-aiming and better control. Display left fire button, I do have that one on. Both of my fire buttons are overlapping. No real reason for that, I don't know, I just have it like that. I don't know why I put it like that, but I do. Slide while running, I have tap crouch while sprinting. Again, definitely just keep the default with that one. The other one does not work and it always makes you a lot slower. Always sprint, my sensitivity is at 50 for that one. Always sprint can make you kind of inconsistent, I feel, and although it can make it harder for enemies to see you, you know, having always sprint off, I feel like is a little bit less buggy, and it's easier to prone down and make sure to keep your aim. So definitely I would turn off always sprint and turn it to that, so you can like walk when you want rather than always sprinting, because always sprinting is good, but it can be quite inconsistent when you need it to be. Gyroscope off, of course, because I've never used gyroscope in my life other than like one time when I was just experimenting. Camera FOV, of course, at 75, because you want a bigger FOV, because then it's better to see people. You have a larger FOV, you can see larger targets, I feel, and it's a lot easier to kind of figure out where all your enemies are. Some people have it at 50, and I think those people are crazy people, but this one's kind of personal preference. You can do whatever you want with that. And I think it does depend on phone size. If you have like a small phone, then it might be good to turn down your FOV so you can see targets actually, rather than having that large FOV, because then you're kind of like more zoomed out. Now, of course, I just have the opacity of some of these things and scale down for content so I can see things a little bit better. You might want to turn your opacity down for these, because sometimes enemies and, you know, seeing that sort of thing can kind of get in the way of looking at your target. So just turn the opacity down to like 50. I have it turned down to like 75 for like the scale, just because, again, it makes it smaller, and it makes it, I feel, makes the content look a little bit more clean. In terms of audio and graphics, I always play around with this one. I personally have it on low currently. I used to have it on high, but, you know, Season 11, Season 12 were poorly optimized, so it's definitely very hard to get that one working up at high without having huge frame drops. My frame rate is at high, just so, you know, I can see whatever. I don't have depth of field turned on because it actually blurs things on the outside, and you don't want blur. You want to be able to see everything that you can, so definitely turn off depth of field. It makes your FOV feel a lot better. And lastly, we have the settings. The settings are very simple. Lastly, we have the sensitivity. Now, the sensitivity is a very simple one to go over, because basically do whatever you know, there's really no point in even looking at my sensitivity, because, well, you know, it's always going to depend on you personally. This is a very high personal preference one, so definitely, you know, do whatever works for you and don't sweat what I'm doing. I personally use distance acceleration because I feel like it's better for smaller phones. You don't have to do that if you're on like a tablet, because fixed speed will work just fine. It makes those finer details a little bit easier to kind of hone in on. So I use distance acceleration. Some people think I'm an idiot for using that because fixed speed is evidently overpowered, but in my personal opinion, distance acceleration is very good. And I also have lower sensitivities because of that, so it makes it easier for me to aim when I need to, and it makes me be able to do drop shots a lot faster and a lot higher sensitivity when I need it. So I do like that one too. Some people use speed acceleration, kind of annoying. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you use that one. I've tried to use it. It's very annoying for me. It doesn't work out. Sensitivity switch while opening ADS. Again, this is a personal preference one. Some people have the gradual, some people have the switch after ADS animation. It really doesn't matter. Personal preference with that one. I think the default is the one that I'm on right now. Sensitivity presets, of course, I have on custom because, well, you kind of need a custom. You definitely want to have a custom sensitivity because that will make you just better. It will make it feel more comfortable and less robotic, I feel. So definitely have it at a custom one. Those are just my standard sensitivities. Camera sensitivity and firing sensitivity are basically just don't change them. It makes you inconsistent. So there we go. That is everything, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I don't use BR settings really. I don't play BR that much, but you know, if you ever wanted to see those, I guess if I ever play BR, I'll show that to you guys. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you could, please like and subscribe. It always helps me out so much. I will see you next time, guys. I love y'all. Bye.